I've had a lot more younger clients buying houses, which I was really shocked on that. I was able to help my daughter, she was 25 years old, buy a house. And last year I had some of the youngest clients. I had actually a 19-year-old buy a house. And so it's cool to see that. Because there for a little bit, I was thinking it was unattainable for the younger generation. Yeah. But I am seeing more and more younger kids buying the houses, stuff like that.
I think it's just people are ready, and it's been just sit and wait, just sit and wait, just sit and wait. I think everybody's realized that you can't just sit and wait anymore. I'm excited to have y'all in today, both from Decatur, Texas. We have Ron with...
Yeah, my name is Ron Byrd. I'm with Mission to Close. I've been in real estate about 11 years now.
Perfect. And we have Chris with...
Legacy Retirement Solutions. And we have an office right in Decatur, off the square, which is what you do when you're in Decatur.
Perfect. Well, I'm so excited to have y'all today to
thanks for having us.
Talk about anything from wealth to retirement to real estate. So... just kind of a question. How did you guys get into things? Let's start with Ron.
Me, I started buying rental properties when I was working in the oil field in my mid to late 20s. And so when I turned 30, I was just kind of done with the oil field life. So I got my real estate license to make it easier just to go buy investment properties and rentals, flips, stuff on my own. And then when I got into it, I just fell in love with it. I think it was more of the relationships. I didn't realize the relationships you'll make in the business. So just meeting people, doing open houses, enjoyed that. So doing 11 years, sold well over 300 something properties now. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Awesome. And Chris, kind of how did you get into what you're doing?
So I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version.
Perfect.
I haven't been doing what I'm doing for a very long time. However, I worked in corporate for years. And in a lot of the financial applications and fintech at the time, and even some AI. So that's my background. As Ron said, I got tired of it. Some person used the term suffocating in corporate, and sometimes it felt like that.
Yeah.
So I had a wake up call when my mother passed away kind of early, several years ago. So I said, okay, time to stop putting off the things. So I picked up the guitar, was doing a little music. I wrote my book, Less is the New More.
Yeah.
And ended up getting out of corporate, doing some coaching. And then when that little pandemic thing happened, kind of changed the world. A lot of us were pivoting. Had an opportunity come up. My good friend Derek, who's one of the partners now, came to me and just kind of organically, opened up the agency to me. And that kind of allowed me to circle back on some things that, I'd done before, but to bring it back into my mainstream. So doing the financial things again, and also being able to address people's foundational needs. Because when I was coaching and we look at all their aspects of their life, I was finding because of COVID and lockdowns that it was hard to get somebody to worry about going from step X to Y or D to E when they're so focused on A and B, which is their health and wealth. So we can actually do both of those things now. We do a lot of the financial and retirement things, but we even do wealth-related plans. Yeah. And so now I'm back able to serve people in a foundational way, do my financial stuff again, and I'm even getting into some AI.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So what do y'all think? I know y'all said sometimes corporate can be suffocating, or different jobs can feel kind of suffocating. 2020 to 2025, we're 5 years out of COVID and everything that kind of happened. A lot has changed. A lot has pivoted in the real estate and in the investment side of things. What are things that you've noticed that have changed, and how have we combated those kind of going forward right now in the last couple of years?
Want to go ahead? Okay. So lifestyle things changed, and maybe what happened even without COVID, maybe it was a correction that was going to happen. Because we saw, I think even before that, in corporate with new generations, they had a distrust maybe of their corporate path. And it used to be, we talked about being a lifer in a company, and that changed, downsizing, shifts in corporations, all kinds of things, right? So I think there was and I'm not judging at all, but there was more of a live for the now lifestyle and a distrust of anything corporate, to the pendulum swinging the whole other way.
Yeah.
And then the lockdowns and things just put that to a head. So I think actually a lot of people are in the position where, for whatever reason, because their business was struggling or they just burned through their finances, sitting on the couch watching Netflix, that they now need to regroup and, figure out a plan, because people are actually living longer. Okay. Yeah, you may not be here tomorrow, but there's a good chance you could be here in 60 years. So you might want to think about that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are moving from renting to owning a home now. They used to be in the living now, like you said, but now they're wanting to have that longevity of, I think I want to settle down in a home. What do you think, Ron, is something that is helping people go from renting to owning, and how are they making that jump and it not be so unattainable?
Man, I've noticed, well, I've had a lot more younger clients buying houses, which I was really shocked on that. I was able to help last year help my daughter, she was 25 years old, buy a house. And, last year I had some of the youngest clients. I had actually a 19-year-old buy a house. And so, and so it's cool to see that, because there for a little bit, I was thinking it was unattainable for the younger generation.
Yeah.
And, but I am seeing more and more younger kids, buying the houses, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know, going from renting to owning, some people are scared of that, because you got to fix things, take care of stuff, taxes, things. But
you're tied down to a location almost.
Well, yes. And so, and then a lot of the, a lot of young guys, they do jump around from job to job, and that's how they get moved up. And so they might be here in Texas, and they might be in Atlanta, or they might be in New York, California, whatever. They move around to get moved up in the companies. But right after COVID, I did see a lot of people moving, because now they're working from home. They are moving out to the country. So we had a lot of influx, especially where we live, people wanting to move out to the country and enjoying, getting a little bit more bang for the buck out there, but at slower pace of life and stuff like that, because they can work anywhere they want. So
yeah, it's different to see that, boomers used to be the big ones buying homes and all of that. And now the demographics changing to that younger, 30 range is where the most home buyers were in the last 2 years, which is quite a switch from what it was. Yeah. But I think it's just people are ready, and it's been just sit and wait, just sit and wait, just sit and wait. I think everybody's realized that you can't just sit and wait anymore. You have to, it's now or never, almost.
Well, the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So, things I know I sold several rent houses thinking like, all right, the market's going to crash.
Yeah.
I'll capitalize, buy some more. Well, those rent houses I sold for 180 are now 250.
Yeah.
And so like, I wish I didn't sell those, but, I should have held on to that, because now I can't really even build a rent house for that price anymore if I wanted to do it myself. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so it's wiser just to buy it now.
Yeah.
I know I tell a lot of young couples, you can't have everything mommy and daddy have. It's took them 30, 40 years to get where they're at.
Yeah.
So, get something that has 80% of what you want that is within your budget, and then you move up from there.
Yeah.
So
do you see a lot of people that aren't getting pre-approved, and they have this dream house or what they think they can afford, and then the reality sets in that they can't once they are, going through the approval process? And so all the homes that y'all have looked at, or maybe you even navigate them away from doing that, and you say, hey, maybe pre-approval first is best.
Well, yeah, a lot of times we get them pre-approved, and then they might be approved for a certain amount, but once they see the payments, so it also depends on your tax rate. There's other factors into it, insurance and stuff. So a lot of times we'll go look at houses in certain areas. I'm like, all right, if you bought this here, this is what your payment would be. But if we buy it out here, this is what your payment would be. And so, and then, is this with, also I don't want to sell something that makes somebody house poor.
Yeah.
Because that's where I've had a lot of clients where they buy something and you're like, man, this is your max budget. And then in a year or two, they're calling me like, hey, we're strapped. Like, we need to sell this. And I hate that. You try to warn them, but, ultimately it's their decision. There's a lot of times where they might be approved for a certain amount. We go look at those houses. Those are the ones that I love. But it's like, hey, if you want to be here, this is your budget. We need to be down here looking in this area and stuff like that. So it's a hard conversation to have with somebody. And, especially, when they're dead set on something, it's just like, you can afford it, but it's going to be tough.
All you're going to afford.
Doing. There's no trips. There's no nothing. So
you'll have the house, but that's it.
That's it.
No furniture. That's the thing. You have the house and you're sitting there in an empty room and you're like, well, now what?
Yeah. Or a kid pops into the situation, things like that. Life happens, or somebody gets injured, things, that's part of life. And so that's a lot of times, I don't know if that's the dad in me, but it's like, you just got to think about that. And that's a lot of times you sit there and just, hey guys, especially young couples, like, yeah, you can afford it now, both y'all working, but 2 or 3 years from now, you have a kid or something.
Someone loses their job, something
100%,
happens.
yeah, life happens, jobs, stuff goes away, things like that. So it's just having those real conversations.
Well, and being able to kind of use real estate as one of the pillars for investing. When they're wanting to start those real estate portfolios, they're wanting to kind of move forward. You have to start somewhere. And so kind of how do y'all help navigate someone of, you'll stay in this house for 2 years or however long you have it, and then you sell and profit. Depending on the market, that's not always the case, but how do you kind of help navigate and push them to be able to use that as an asset that they can use to build wealth in other places?
So I'll start. You mentioned like the term pillar, and we absolutely recommend real estate as a pillar of investment in your retirement. And even with the change in interest rates, I mean, historically, they're still good, right? Yeah. We just don't have those unicorn days of, cheap houses and almost nothing, interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Like Ron said, you don't expect to be in your mansion, when you're in 20 something. Okay.
Yeah.
You work up from that's great. You're like, they write songs about this, like live in the place you are in the chapter of your life. Right. But it still makes sense because, it's over time, like the stock market, it's appreciated. Real estate has forever. And it even is a negatively correlated thing with the stock market, meaning if the market's, kind of in the dumper, real estate can still be doing okay. Now there's, it should be one of the pillars in addition to investing in the market and some other things we'd recommend. So now how do you do that? And there's different ways, right? Maybe you can't be, the plumber and the whatever, the Mr. Fix-It person at a thing you're going to rent out, but that's just one option, right? So like we could have you help you indirectly invest in real estate with like real estate investment trusts. But I mean, that's just one thing. And Ron can tell you about all the various other ways. So you have the options, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of times, especially like a young couple buying a house. So you should tell them, like, live in this couple of years, you can refinance it, pull some equity out, go buy another house, keep that as a rental, or you sell it, take that money, put it into your next house, and after your fourth or fifth house, that last house is almost free or paid way down. So several different ways to do it.
But you could also, when you're ready, right? If you're starting out, you're going to just be paying for your first home.
Yeah.
But you could look at undeveloped land, right?
Yes.
You could do flipping. I'm not saying I always recommend that, but that's an option.
There's several different options. Yeah.
Rentals and, other things.
Yeah. Rentals, that's what got me out of the oil field was rentals. I bought my first house when I was early 20s, bought my first rental in my mid 20s. And then, that's what got me into real estate was the rentals. But so it has a special heart, that's just an avenue, but there's several different avenues to doing it. With having, say, a couple rent houses and then you invest money in a URIO or other SEP IRAs,
investment avenues.
Yeah. And so there's several ways you can set up your retirement and be ready for whatever market or whatever age, you want to get, or when you want to retire, you'll have that nest egg set up. So,
and there's never too young of an age to start saving for retirement and getting set up for that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes we will sell plans, especially like with grandparents, maybe if they want to give something to, you can do it with a newborn, right? So there's policy owner, but the beneficiary or the, annuitant is the young person. That doesn't always happen, but I absolutely recommend that anybody, 18 or getting out of school, it's like start small. We can do that. And you've got that big runway. So you can, compounding is, magical, right? So if you can be putting away a little bit a month over time, that can be huge by the time you get to retirement. Or, as Ron mentioned, if you start putting or have something you can put away into one of these products where you can have the ability to loan small amounts to yourself. Like if you're buying a big thing, you go get a loan. You go to you guys and get a loan, right? I got to stop doing that.
We loan for everything and anything.
But yeah, so this is a way to be able to help manage your finances. And what's the other thing another thing? So if you're not just an investor, if you're like a straight up realtor, you got a feast and famine cycle, right? Just like we all do. So you're not necessarily compounding something that way. So you need to think about, okay, what's taking some of it, putting it away so that at whatever point that you do your exit strategy or whatever, you've got this stream of income as well. And that can be true like for anyone, but definitely it can be solid for people who are not in the corporate jobs, right? Because they kind of have their plans. I could go, off on that tangent, but for other people, they just don't have those things. They're in a non-conventional thing. Maybe you got health insurance, but maybe you don't have other things coming to you with the benefits package of the job.
Would you say retirement is still 65, or can someone, if they have investment properties and then they also, invest in the market and invest in all of that, could they be retiring at 40, 50 years old?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you can elaborate, but yeah, I mean, so if the problem has been, building up to that with the economy and so forth, right? But absolutely. And I will also say, do you even need to technically retire? There are a lot of people, more my age or older. They're like, I don't like that term, and it's okay if, it has the connotations of you're sitting in the community and you're doing bingo and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We love to go into our senior communities, but I have seen that staying active mentally and physically makes a huge difference in your longevity.
Yeah.
In addition to other factors, right? Like I said, people just don't like that term because they want to stay busy, and you can do that. There's so many different things you can do, whether you pivot from what you're doing now to something different. So it's really just more like another chapter of your life.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do that chapter earlier, switch gears, why not, right?
Yeah.
If you can develop, and if you start saving and doing that stuff earlier, that gives you that option, right? And if you don't, it's okay. You keep working, you do whatever chapter comes to you.
Yeah.
In this time.
And so never too late to start either.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm sure you see that a lot, right? And we see with people who are, well, I'm in retirement, it's too late. It's like, well, no, we've done some things. You can always do something, okay? Your runway is shorter and some things won't make sense, but there's always something you can do probably that you're not doing that could make it better.
What do you think kind of in today's market of people feeling like they're never going to own, no matter the age, right? A lot of the world is pushing people to rent because they're selling it as, well, here's what it's going to be. You don't have any maintenance. You don't have any of that. But in the long run, are they paying more renting?
Ooh. Well, nothing's appreciating. Like, you don't own it. I mean, your cost of living might be a little bit cheaper, but like when you own a house, like you got the appreciation over time. That's where you're building wealth. So, like some of these rent houses I bought 15, 16 years ago, I paid $45,000, $50,000 for them. Yeah, I had to put some work, into it and stuff like that. But now they're worth $250,000. What investment am I going to have else can have done in 15 years grow that much? So, I would always, and it is the coolest feeling when you have somebody, I had a single mother a couple of years ago. She was in her late 40s, never owned a home before. And so we finally got her into a house there in Bowie. And that was the coolest feeling, just to hand her the keys, because that's been her dream forever, is get that. So it's an awesome feeling. And then, like I said, last year I had a 19-year-old kid, started working at 17 and saved up money. And at 19 years old, he had 2 years worth of income, and he was able to buy him a nice house, and that was cool to see that. So I was like, man, it was a kind of proud father moment. He wasn't my kid, but I was like, that's pretty awesome to see somebody doing that. But the opportunity's out there. It might not be the ideal area that you would want to live or this or that, but it's just a short term. And then, like you say,
there's a lot of things out there too, like assistance programs and things.
Yes. And that'd be something definitely you get with a good lender and with y'all and stuff like that, and figure out what programs. A lot of people don't understand there are, programs and stuff like that you can get into to help get you into that first house. Once you get in that first house, then you can just slowly build from there. And, but yeah, just getting into that first place it's the starting point.
And it's not always that 20% that everyone is so scared that it's a 20%. And I mean, there's so many things out there. There's down payment assistance programs, and there's times where you put down 3%. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that it's not the 20 anymore.
It's not 20. I mean, you go out in the country, you got a USDA loan that's zero down. You have it's a guarantee fee instead of mortgage insurance. And then, so your payments are a little bit cheaper because usually your tax rate and stuff like that. So, there's several different factors to look at, how to get you in your first house. But you might have to drive a little bit farther, for a little bit, just time being. And then, once you get a little bit more established, then you can move to where you want to move to. But
yeah. And a good realtor and lender and everything, they want the best for you. And in the long term, working with them as opposed to not working with them at all, there's going to be off the market deals that you'll be able to see before anyone else.
Yeah.
You can get into things just because they know the market, they know what's out there. When I was a first-time home buyer, I was like, I'm going to have to put down $30,000. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. But then your realtor guides you and your loan officer guides you as well to know there's stuff out there where if you only want to put down a couple thousand, or you only have a couple thousand to put down, we might have to do a smaller house. We might have to make some changes, but it's doable and it's possible. And there's a lot of assistance out there.
Absolutely. And you would think in an information age that, they wouldn't even need any of us, right? And you can kind of go that route, right? And I've sort of kept an eye on that, from my perspective and others, and that's not like that at all anymore. It's like the more information just makes it more confusing and scary, right? So having somebody to help, that knows the things, that can curate and do all that is like, super powerful for anyone. And I think to a point you made is a lot of this sounds scary, but, till you do it the first time. All right. So you don't get too big. Start small. Get your feet wet. Whether we're talking about, your primary home or, investing in it or investing in, for your future, start something. Don't go crazy. In fact, I'd recommend against that, so you don't jump into, I'm going to try to time the market and, day trade and all that stuff, right? It's like, no, don't. Okay. Unless that's really your thing and you're super smart and you can lose the money, you're okay with that.
Well, and you hire an
start small.
expert for everything else. I could probably figure out how to put a drain in, but am I going to do that? No, I'm going to hire an expert. I'm going to hire a plumber to do that. That's a smaller investment compared to your home. So why wouldn't you trust an expert in that aspect as well?
Yeah, so you're going to scrimp on something that important, but don't hesitate to do it for a small thing. Yeah, very true.
Well, thank you so much, Chris and Ron, for being here today. It was a pleasure, and I hope to continue this partnership together. And thank you so much for watching SurePath Lending today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share our videos.